Hey guys, as you're watching me speak here, I'm sure you're on a computer. I don't know if you've ever looked at that and just wondered, how does it work? What's in there? So I'm going to go over how to build a computer. And I'm going to start with the main manufacturers. You're going to want to get a case, and that doesn't matter. There's no manufacturer like necessity on that. It's basically size at that point. So some people get huge towers that are like double stacks, and then some people have just like your smaller normal towers that you would see. I have a pretty moderate one myself. But then once you get to that point, you're going to want to pick either AMD or Intel. Those are pretty much the two manufacturers that are even available on the markets. And if you were to choose one, you could not interchange those parts. So you couldn't get a motherboard that was AMD and a processor that was Intel. It just wouldn't function. It wouldn't work. So once you pick one, you got to stick with it. And then after you do that and decide what you want to get, you're going to want to choose a motherboard and a processor. And a processor basically is what your computer is capable of doing. Like, I'm sure you've heard of Intel dual core processors. That would be Intel, not AMD. I guess that goes without saying, but there are dual cores, quad cores, octa cores, and each multiples of cores is basically like multiple processors in one. Like if you get a single core processor, it'll have processing power and it'll have a little bit of power that your computer can achieve, but not much. Like if you got a quad core, it almost quadruples that power. So that's the ability that your computer has, and your motherboard is just like basically the map that makes everything run. Like you need those two things, and then you pick what you want around that. And most parts under the specs will tell you what the minimum requirements are, and it's usually based on the processor or motherboard. So once you pick those and get them put into your case, then you're going to want a power supply so you can turn it on, and then you're going to want RAM. And basically, RAM is you get it in gigabyte sticks that you put into your computer, and that's how fast your computer can process things. So it's also based on your processor, but it would be like if you were booting your computer up, how long that would take, or if you were opening a program, like you double click the Internet Explorer and then you wait a few seconds. If you have a lot of RAM and a good processor, then it'll just pop that window up, and then it would be your internet connection that could take longer to connect. That would be the only stall that you would have. But yeah, just clicking through menus, opening windows. That's what the RAM has to do with. And then the hard drive. There are a couple of types of hard drives. There's normal hard drives that have a disk inside and it spins and it records data that way. So it stores data and records it, and then just kind of like stores it all in there. So when you hear disk defragment, like defragging your hard drive, then that's basically your computer taking all the little files in it and packing them together, and then just like opening more space on the disk for you to record on. And then there's also that's your standard hard drive, but there's also a solid state hard drive. And what that is there's no disk, so it doesn't like spin to record the information, and it's all digitally recorded and executed. So that's much faster and usually more expensive if you go that route. But if you were to get your operating system, which is like Windows XP, Vista, Windows 8, that's what an OS or an operating system is. And if you put your operating system on a solid state hard drive, some people will get dual, just like a small solid state, so they don't have to pay as much. And then that's your computer booting up and going through all of that. So it would be your RAM, your processor, and if you got a solid state, those would all affect the speed in which your computer boots up. Whereas you have to wait for your computer to load, open to the main menu, and then load to your desktop. It would take just a matter of seconds with a solid state hard drive if you had your operating system on that solid state. So that's a couple differences of hard drives that you can choose, and then it doesn't really matter as much. But if you're a gamer, it definitely does. It's your graphics card, pretty much how much you can run, how high definition things can get that you watch, what videos you can play. You would probably want to have a good graphics card if you had Blu-ray, but you have to get a Blu-ray player for that, which has its own capabilities as well. But yeah, once you have all that, then you basically have like your beast alive. So once you have that, you can't really do anything with it until you get a monitor, a keyboard, and a mouse. And then you need those to interact with your computer that you build, like it all. But there are also more things like sound cards, which usually come on board with the motherboard or processor, just the parts that you assemble, kind of like most fans. come preset with a tower for you. But if you want a better sound card, then you can get one and just like have like super clear sound. Or if you need it for a particular system, if you're setting up like a surround sound system, then that would be something good to have, I guess. But it wasn't anything I cared too much about. So that's just goes to show you the customization that you can put on building a computer, though. Like I didn't care, so I didn't put too much money into that, and I focused on the graphics rather than like all the sounds. It just wasn't as important to me. But then yeah, you need the keyboard, monitor, mouse, and then sound cards and speakers, of course, if you want to listen to anything other than like a TV you might have it through, or a monitor that might already have speakers on it. Usually, if you just get speakers and do like a surround sound setup or something like that, it'll just sound better. So there's just another customization that you have. I guess like based on those prices though, if you were just to get your standard setup that you could use in like an office or just at home, the average would cost at the store about $700 to $1,000, and if you were to build the same thing yourself, it would be about $500. So there are ways that you can get cheaper computers without building them, but it's because companies buy in mass quantities and get a bulk discount on really, really cheap parts. So they're already cheap, and it would probably be like the equivalent of building your own with just bad parts, but they get it in bulk, so there's a discount, and that's how you save money on it. It's not something I would recommend, but if you're a real penny pincher, then you could go that route. I just would never recommend that. But yeah, I guess with all that, that's all you really need to know to get a computer going. But I think it's a really good idea to have this information, especially with the age that we're in, and technology seems to be like ruling over everything. So it can only help in careers, and it's really just kind of nice since I learned this. I can look at a computer, I can hear people talk about their computers, or like go to their house and just kind of look at it, see a couple parts, and recognize them, and then like know what their computer can do. And it's kind of cool. It just gives you more skills, more knowledge, and you can look someone in the eyes and say, "I know how to build a computer." I don't know. I feel like that's probably going to be common knowledge in the future. So it probably helps that we get ahead of the game and just learn it. But yeah, I just hope this video is beneficial to you, and hopefully you got some good information out of it. So I don't know if anyone wants to build a computer, but there's the steps you'll need to do it. All right.